Hello and welcome back to the course on Power BI. In today's tutorial, we're going to create another element that is going to go onto our final dashboard. Yes, I know it's getting quite heavy, it's getting quite saturated, or the dashboard is going to be quite saturated with information, and yeah, it's going to be exciting. So today we're creating a tree map. So let's call this, or we'll call this job classification. So that's what we're portraying, and the type of visualization is going to be a tree map. And let's just click tree map over here. So tree map is kind of like a pie chart, but it's just presented in a different way. So basically you can switch between tree map and pie chart very easily. It's the same thing. So we've got some categories and then a numeric value that tells you the size of each category. It's just a different way of presenting information. So let's go ahead and create our tree map. We're going to use job classification as our category, and we're going to use, once again, count of customer ID as our value. So there you go. And as you can see, as you resize the tree map, it automatically adjusts, and that's pretty much it. So I'll show you that I can change to a pie chart very easily and seamlessly. If I select that, I have a pie chart, so you can see right away that white collar workers are about 0.5% of our total. In fact, let's just change this to a quick calc right away. We'll change this to % of grand total, and then here, or actually we won't go there for now. If you just look at the tooltip, you'll see it's 48.7%. and if I go back to the tree map, it's less evident from here that it is about 50%, and that is why these two different types of visualizations exist. So even though the pie chart can tell you something, some things, like for instance that this is about 50%, you can tell right away these are about a quarter each. You can't really tell that from here as easily, but at the same time, a tree map carries other, it has its own other advantages. For example, when you have more different categories, a pie chart gets easily overwhelmed. So after, for example, 4 or 5 or 6 different categories, a pie chart becomes very cluttered. Whereas a tree map, it maintains its consistency, and it really helps you see those important elements, those larger groups, and then you can tell also the less significant groups. So probably a tree map is better when you have more categories, and a pie chart is better when you have less categories. But that's just a rule of thumb. It really depends on you and your personal preferences, what you want to show and which kind of visualizations you want to use. All right, so here we've got the information. All we need to do is go to our formatting. And here you might want to change the colors a little bit. So let's see, data colors. We've got, so let's start with white collar workers. White collar workers, you might want to make them, or let's start with blue collar workers. Blue collar workers, it's pretty straightforward. Let's make them blue, right? So maybe let's choose a different blue so that we don't get confused with the blue that we're using for gender, right? That might be the same blue. Let's use like a darker blue. The only thing is I'm not really a big fan of these neon colors, so that should be okay. White collar workers, maybe we can use some other color. Let's see what happens if we use, no, that's too light, and plus you can't really see the text. So sometimes you could just do the opposite. You could do like a black, and because the text is white, people would understand. Or maybe you could use a light gray as a kind of a darker white option. And then other, I don't think red is a good option because we can get confused with the red that we're using for gender. And here, what color could we use for other? Yeah, tricky one. So maybe something like a brown type of color. So that's an orange. It's very hard always picking here. So, but the good news is if you have the hex code, you can just enter it, and that way you won't have to pick out the color. So yeah, I would leave it like that, but really it's not the best option that we have here. Okay, maybe something like that. So why is it blue and other? And finally, in the colors, not the colors, the categories and labels. So I'm going to switch the data labels on here and display So we want, just keep it like that, but 0 decimal points. And click OK. So there we go. So we've got a 49%, 26, and 25%. And finally, we can just keep it as it is, and then we'll be ready to use it. So what we can do is we can resize it, and if we resize it, you'll see that everything adjusts accordingly. So both not just the boxes, but also the labels move around, so everything's working fine. All right, so that was our tree map, and we're nearly ready. We're actually ready to proceed to creating our final business intelligence report, but we'll start doing that in the next tutorial. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Until then, happy analyzing.